Hello, 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 everybody. Today is Saturday, November 1, the day after Halloween. This is an impromptu video. I thought about going live, but I'm going to be doing a live tomorrow, Sunday, November 2nd at 2 p.m. Eastern Time with Todd to answer your questions about the Rh negative bloodline, the Cassiopeans, all sorts of stuff. Todd is also going to tell his story about his connection to Laura, his familial connection to her, all that kind of information. So I thought I would just pre-record this video. We've been pumping out a lot of videos this week, so I think Monday and Tuesday I'll probably take off. So I'll give you a couple of days to catch up with the backlog of videos if you need to. But nonetheless, we are dealing with shadow banning. So if you can, if you like these videos, please help us out by sharing them with your friends and family, liking them or unliking them if you want to. It still helps the algorithm. Leaving a comment, even if you have nothing to say, perhaps leaving just your country flag or something would really help us out if you choose, if you want to help us out. I just did a TikTok about this from my car, but I'll just go ahead and tell you guys, I am so tired this morning. I know I don't have any makeup on. I filmed yesterday for a documentary that should be coming out. I think he said, don't quote me on this. I think he said the end of summer. I'll keep you guys posted, but it's a legitimate, it's not a YouTube, it's a legitimate like real cameras and a set and stuff like that. So I'm quite tired, but I was so blessed to be a part of it and I had such a great experience. And I was planning again on taking today off, but I think I'll just take Monday and Tuesday off because I've got to work tomorrow anyway. So I was planning on making this video. I was gonna wait till we got into the week. But I think I'm just going to go ahead and make it because it's striking while the iron is hot. And like anything, as a YouTuber who has a pretty significant platform, I always want to be accountable to things that I say, and I don't want just to ignore things that are going on. And so I want to talk today about the YouTube channel Hidden True Crime. This is a YouTube channel that I have recommended a lot on my channel. I have a lot of respect for the concept of hidden true crime. I especially have enjoyed Dr. John on hidden true crime. I think it's fascinating to have a psychiatrist or psychologist. I think he's a psychologist. Sorry if I misspoke on that, but he works in mental health. And so he has a perspective on crime that's different, I think, from a lot of other channels. His wife Lauren is a news anchor or was a news anchor, a journalist for a mainstream media outlet, I think in Idaho. Again, correct me if I'm wrong on that. And so they make a pretty good team and it's a really great idea. But last week or the week before, recently, something happened on their channel that has got the internet all abuzz. And this is a 9 hour 9 hour live that Lauren did about, I'm going to show you guys the channel, about being stalked. Let me see if she has that up still. Let's go to lives. This is the channel. They have gone down in subscribers since. Obviously, I didn't make it the whole way. I tried to watch the whole thing, but honestly, sometimes I second guess myself and things. I think a lot of us do that. Like I need to listen to my initial reactions to a lot of things. And my initial reaction when I saw that was like 9 hours. Like 9 hours? You sat in front of a camera for 9 hours? Isn't that a little bit self-absorbed? That was my initial reaction. I can't imagine doing a 9 hour live. I mean, I don't do lives that much anyway, but I cannot imagine doing that long of a live. I don't think listen, at the end of the day, I'm tired of hearing my own self-talk anyway. Like from doing YouTube to teaching, sometimes there are days where like I don't want to hear myself talk. I want to go invisible and let somebody else talk for a change, believe it or not. I can't imagine sitting in front of a camera for 9 hours. And I kept watching because I kept thinking, okay, where's going to be the big like ta-da, voila moment? Like where is the big like gotcha moment in these stalking allegations? And I was feeling kind of confused, but I think I was doubting myself because Lauren did seem quite scared. And I did go and check out like the TikTok of the lady she claims is stalking her. And even though her TikTok is kind of cringe, maybe a little immature, I didn't really feel like she never says Lauren's name. And so I never felt like I just thought this is just like some grown-up girl drama stuff. But nonetheless, I kind of shoved that down and was like, bless her heart, she's being stalked, blah blah blah. But with the 9 hour, it just kept repeating itself. It was like going in a circle with the same accusations. There were some other things in the live that caught my attention that I thought was kind of weird, and now I understand why. So, as many of you guys know, and this is part of the reason why I'm speaking out as well. I have actually been stalked. And I've done a couple of shows about this. I've had to address it. Is one of the scariest things that I've ever gone through in my life. It's somebody here who has a big Telegram presence and they have a RUMBLE channel. And this woman is, in my opinion, schizophrenic. She hears voices, and therefore these voices tell her things about people. She thinks she's like telepathically talking to Trump. She thinks she's telepathically talking to like celebrities. And the way she talks about it, though, I don't think people listening to her actually realize what she's saying. Sometimes I don't think they realize she's talking about, she's hearing it in her head. I think they literally think she has like these legitimate relationships with these people. And because it's over social media, they don't know her in real life. People believe her, which makes it worse when she targets someone like you, because, or like me, because her followers think that she's literally getting this information from legitimate sources. And so it gets very scary. And when I was going through my stalking situation, like there was one day that I had over 1,000 voice messages about unaliving me, like voice messages she was leaving on Telegram, over 1,000 in one day of her talking about unaliving me. I mean, I had files. You guys have seen the files of all the threats of other people getting involved, carrying it on. I filed both here in Georgia as well as in Florida. Florida picked the case up because my stalker, my legitimate stalker, lives in Florida. And one thing with Lauren, when she was talking about this, again, I didn't see the intensity coming from her stalker as I did from mine. Like it didn't seem like my stalker obviously is mentally unstable. Like it's obvious. That didn't seem that way from hers. And and then I noticed she talked about going to court, that she was filing these like civil injunctions for stalking and she was having to go to court, but then she dismissed the charges because Law and Crime showed up to like film her and how dare they, which I thought was weird. That did strike me as weird because that's what she does. Like she goes around to all these trials to film them and talk about them. That's what they cover on their channel. But yet somebody coming to her case is is not acceptable. Like she kind of, in my opinion, from what I saw, it felt like she was claiming that Law and Crime was exploiting her. But isn't that what she's doing to other people too? Like it just didn't make sense to me. It's the whole rules for thee, but not for me scenario that I kind of felt like, but I was like, whatever, okay. But then I thought it was weird that she was actually showing up at the court. Because in my situation with my stalker, it's criminal charges. And so the state of Florida is charging this person with felony stalking, not me. I just filed a police report. I handed over all of my evidence to the detective. The detective went through it all, was in contact with me. He handed it to the DA. The DA then filed charges. I don't have to go to court. Like every time there's a court case, I'm notified and they tell me I'm welcome to come if I want to, which why would I want to? Like I'm being stalked by this person. Why do I want to show up and be in the same room with her? Like I literally I don't even think I physically could. I think I would just start shaking so bad that I would not be able to do it. So I don't have to go. And I think that's why they don't make you go as a victim because they don't want to traumatize you anymore. So I don't have to go to any of her cases because even though I'm named as the victim, the case is the state of Florida charging her, not me. It's a criminal case. It's not civil, it's criminal. And I guess that didn't register in my head that what Lauren was saying is that she was filing this civilly and not criminally until I watched another person's channel. There's tons of people covering this, where basically, from what it appears, from what how it appears to me, is that the court didn't file charges. Like they basically told Lauren that there was no stalking here, that this wasn't a stalking matter. And so then the only option she had was to file civilly so that she could take care of it civilly, which again isn't criminal. So with a criminal court system, if the person is found guilty, you're looking at potential jail time, prison time, or fines or probation. There's all these different punishments that the state is going to give to the person if and when they are found. Everyone is innocent until proven guilty. And if they are proven guilty, then the state, the jury and the state will come up with a punishment, not me as the victim. I might be allowed to read a victim impact statement before sentencing, but it's not up to me. It's not a, if it were up to me, this person, my stalker, would be locked away in a padded room for the rest of her life, and all the internet would be taken away from her because she's dangerous, because she's mentally unstable, and so she's believing her delusions, and it's affecting other people's lives in a negative way. In my opinion, I told this to the Sarasota Police Department. In my opinion, she is somebody, she has one of these, a pew pew, and I believe she is somebody. I know that because she's put it on her videos before. I think she's somebody that could potentially, allegedly, take one of these and go to a public place and start because the voices in her head are telling her to. That's what I told, and I was like, I this is just my main concern is that if this isn't taken care of now, we're looking at potential unaliving on a mass scale from this person. That was my. And so from my perspective, this person needs to be locked in a padded room and have no access to the internet, and she needs to be medicated, and she needs doctors, and she needs a lot of psychological help, but a lot of separating her from society because she's dangerous. That's my opinion. Obviously, they're not going to do that. There has a limit to how far people can go, but nonetheless, I have no say over that. In a civil case, I believe you're looking for like settlements, all that kind of stuff. It's very different. The defendant in a civil case is not going to serve jail prison time, right? Which, when you're being stalked, you want them to serve prison time because you don't want them to hurt you. So I was very confused as to why in Lauren's live she was talking about showing up at the courthouse, all that kind of stuff, when that is not my experience. I don't show up. I've never set foot in the courtroom. Never set foot in the courtroom. Actually, I don't know if I've ever set foot in a courtroom before, ever. So I was like, that's weird. And then when I listened to somebody else talk about it and sum it up, I was like, oh, it's because the court didn't believe there was enough evidence to claim this particular person was actually stalking Laura. Like the court didn't believe there was enough evidence for them to feel like Lauren or her family was actually in physical danger. That's a big difference there. That was really eye-opening for me. Because in my case, there was no denying that my life was literally in danger. I had to have police come out here to lock down my house to make sure it was safe. Um, we've even considered getting a PO box so that our address is not publicly out there anymore in any type of like legal filings because it was very scary. It was absolutely terrifying. And so yeah, so that struck me as odd. Again, the whole 9 hour thing, I enjoy long YouTube videos. I do like the YouTube videos that are like 2 or 3 hours. I like long format, but I like the long format when there's more than one person, like when there's a round table. And that's something I really want to do here on Esoteric Atlanta. I'm looking into doing that because I find like with these channels that like have a topic that they're going to talk about, and anybody's welcome to click the link and come up and discuss things that I learn more from that, hearing other people's that I don't even know. Like these are people that come up that don't have channels most of the time. They're just, just regular people that have an opinion. And it's nice to hear that from time to time, in certain cases, hear people's different perspectives because it helps you see things from a different perspective. And I think makes it all, two heads are better than one. Well, 10 heads are better than one because it gives all these different things to consider and the different nuances and situations. So, with that being said, like 3, 4 hour roundtable videos where people are discussing a topic, I love that. But when it's one person, I don't know. Like, I'm not a therapist, and we're going to get to Dr. John in a minute, but isn't that kind of like a red flag for a personality disorder? I just like why do you have to sit on YouTube for 9 hours and create this like narrative? Because that's what it felt like. A narrative was being spun that this person was this awful, terrible person. Like it's a 9 hour hit job, basically. Like, don't you have friends you can talk to about this? I don't know. It just 9 hours. And she claimed to be in like an undisclosed location for her safety, basically a hotel room. In the whole time that I was being actively stalked and I would come and do my videos, never once was I in a different location. I was always here at my house. And I literally was having my literal life threatened. Like I was literally in danger. I could not go places by myself. I could not answer the door. There were certain things I've never even spoken about on YouTube before that I was instructed to do. I literally was like a prisoner in my own home. There were days where I had to get people to sub out my classes because the threat was so great that I didn't need to go to teach because I didn't want to put my students in jeopardy. This was very serious, and this wasn't just in my mind. This was coming from law enforcement, right? And so I don't understand why she had to go. Was that just to be dramatic? Was getting a hotel room and saying you're an undisclosed location away from your family, like were you trying to like gain sympathy from like your audience? I'm confused because again, and I don't want to compare traumas, but like there was serious concern that I was going to be like pew pew. Like there was serious concern coming from like law enforcement about my life. So I just not once did they say you need to go into an undisclosed location. No, it was just like you need to make sure you do not answer your door. You need to make they both Florida and Georgia told us to make sure we had that we did have these. That was of the utmost. That's terrifying. When two different law enforcement officers, one from Georgia and one from Florida, say it is vitally important that you have one of these. You got to get one of these if you don't have one of these because you need to be able to protect yourself. That's terrifying when they tell you that they believe that there is a likelihood, even though they checked the perimeter of my home, they felt like it was pretty safe. But just to be, again, on the safe side, you need to make sure you have a way to protect yourself. Do not answer your door. You do not take your dog for a walk by yourself or at all. You let your boyfriend do that. You do not go places alone right now. This is very, very serious. And all of that, not once, ne'er a single time did they say, have you considered going to a hotel room to stay for a while? Even if they had said that, I can't afford to go live at the Ritz-Carlton for a week because I'm scared. I can't we can't do that. So we have to hunker down and be smart. Anyway, so yeah, that was really triggering to me. Like I felt like, and again, I don't want to like take away somebody else's pain and their trauma, but I remember thinking, girl, has anything bad ever really happened to you? Because this does not seem like a big deal. I mean, I know bad things have happened to you. She lost her brother. There's, stuff that's happened to her, and I'm sorry about that. But like the reaction to what's happening to you does not equal the crime. Because I felt like I handled myself way better in my stalking situation had gone on for like a year. But before action really started to be was really started to happen. And my stalkers still post about me to this day. Still, even though she's not supposed to, she still does. Right? So I'm just very confused because I thought her reaction to the whole situation was very, very overblown. And it confused me too because she has been a news anchor before. So this is not her first rodeo when it comes to media. Surely to God, if you're a news anchor, you've had unpleasant attention before. Like when you're first on YouTube, it's weird. You get kind of this like what's happening when people, but then over time you just kind of get used to it. And you kind of learn what's serious and what's not serious. And I don't know. I just felt like her reaction spoke of someone who's never been had anything bad happen to them. And so the minute she got a little bit of criticism, which was basically what was happening, this stalker, as she says, per her words, it seemed like when I went to look at her TikTok, was really just kind of criticizing things that she didn't like about Lauren. It did not seem like there was really a threat. Like she would say some things like your head on a platter or take the kingdom down. But these were really like when she talked about that, I was like, that those are figures of speech. Like those are figures of speech. They're not, I don't think anybody's gonna come like decapitate you. Like that's just a figure of speech. Like, oh, I'm gonna kill him. Like that's a figure of speech. My stalker literally gave a play-by-play of how she was gonna do it to me. Like literally gave a play-by-play. And encourage other people to give play-by-plays too. It's different than just giving a figure of speech. So I think this is being blown out of proportion. And as a middle-aged woman, I think you would know that that's what that is. It's literally a figure of speech. So that was weird. And then she started talking about the reason why her stalker targeted her was because in a text message, she had called her stalker annoying. I mean, I'm sure that I'm annoying to some people. I'm sure I annoy myself sometimes. Like, yeah, that might hurt your feelings if you find that somebody said that about you, but it's not enough to like create a negative campaign. You know what I'm saying? Like, for an adult, like it would hurt my feelings if someone said that about me, but I'm not going to go and like start stalking them or trying to harass them because of it. So I kind of throughout the whole 9 hour live, as I was watching it, or most of it, as you saw, I didn't make it all the way to the end. I kept thinking, okay, she's talking about a text message that where she said this girl was annoying, and now this girl apparently is threatening to release more text messages. This feels like an active attempt to spin doctor something that's about to come out. What are in those text messages? I kept thinking that what did you say in those text messages? What is that why you're terrified? Is that why you're scared? It's not, are you trying to spin this to make it so it's this girl's fault when really what's going to happen is text messages are going to be released where you've said something that could get you like canceled, as the kids say. It got into this whole, this whole conversation around like victims, and I did notice that about their channel, I will say a while ago. They do great coverage of these big cases like the Lori Vallow, Chad Daybell, the Delphi girls. Like they do pretty thorough coverage. And I always, again, enjoy hearing Dr. John's perspective as a clinical and forensic psychologist. I hope I said his title right. But I did notice that they got very close to the surviving victims, like the victims' families who are also victims. And that always kind of felt uneasy for me. And I can't, I mean, I know it's nuanced and it's gray, and I get very close. Like a lot of people I film with are my friends now. Kelly Teal, who was the Nexium survivor. I reached out to her to talk to her about Nexium a long time ago, and we were just playing phone tag the other week. She is now a friend of mine, and now I don't even think about her as like Kelly from the cult. Like now she's just Kelly, and I love her for her, and I'm so glad she's my friend. I'm glad we met through me reaching out for her to hear her experience, but that's just the catalyst of how we became friends. She doesn't really do a lot of media anymore, but that doesn't matter to me because I think she's a cool chick, and I'm glad she's my friend. And I don't, unless she wanted to come back on and talk about Nexium again, I'm not gonna I mean, that's up to her if she wants to or not. I'm not gonna exploit her for that because she's my friend. Now, she's not just a subject that I'm interviewing. And I don't even like personally thinking of people as subjects that I'm interviewing. They're human beings, right? And I've developed friendships with a lot of people that I've interviewed. But I think the difference between my platform and their platform is I'm not claiming to be a true crime platform. They are. And that's all they cover is true crime. That's only some of what I cover. Yeah. So my subjects that I feel like the subjects that I report on or do deep dives on are typically dead, like for hundreds of years, right? Like, Catherine de Medici or, Rasputin or Samuel Untermeyer. Like these people have not been on the earth for a very long time. Right? And basically, like, my subjects are a history paper, a history report on wacky people from the past and weird history. Yeah. So these are my subjects. These historical characters, these urban sources of urban legends, those I feel like are my subjects. And I can't get close to them because they're no longer here. But when I interview like cult survivors, like Kelly, my friend Kelly, Doug, my late friend Doug, I don't consider them to be my subjects. Like, because I want to hear about their story with the cult, but I also want to hear about like their recovery, like how they got through it. The way they did it at Hidden True Crime was different though, because, and I don't know what the answer is. Like, you can interview a survivor, a family member, of, JJ's grandparents who kind of really kicked off the search for the kids, Tylee's brother. You can interview them and have empathy for them and be friendly with them, but to get that close to a subject, especially while the case is still going on, right? Maybe after the case is over, if you stroke up a rapport or friendship, then maybe the friendship would grow. But I think there's some boundaries that need to be put forward when you are literally covering the case and they're part of that, they're the subject, right? They're part of the subject you're covering. I do think there needs to be some boundaries. And I think that's Lauren's responsibility as the journalist to keep those boundaries. It's not the victim's responsibility. The victims are being thrust into the spotlight whether they like it or not. Like they have no choice. And if it's your family member that's missing, or if it's your family member that's been found brutally unalived, regardless of how shy you are, I think you're going to go after any media coverage you can get to try to bring justice to your loved ones. But with that being said, as far as the reporter, you have to understand. I mean, Lauren, your husband is a psychologist. Like the subjects, the victims that you're interviewing are hurting. They're vulnerable. They're looking for anything to cling to help them get through this. And so you have to be responsible as the reporter to understand their vulnerability. And you can have empathy, but you need to make sure that you are keeping that relationship healthy and not toxic so that the victims can move through this with as much support and grace as possible. If you really are caring about them, find them a therapist, find them an advocacy group that can help them so that you can remain your position as a unbiased reporter. I think she got, I heard Kate, and I don't want to put words in people's mouth, but if I remember correctly, correct me in the comments if I'm wrong. I think Kay said at some point it stopped being about JJ and Tylee with Lauren, because it's like she inserts herself into the victim instead of just interviewing the victims, being kind with them, coordinating with them, helping them from a professional perspective. She like inserts herself into the victims' lives. And that always kind of bothered me, even when I, like years ago when I was started following them, that was a little weird to me that that was happening. But I've never been a news reporter. I don't even consider myself a journalist now, even though I kind of do journalism. So, what do I know? But that's been brought up now a lot with people reacting to Lauren's 9 hour live. Like, this is literal getting close with somebody and then exploiting them. And some people feel like these text messages that could potentially come out are, in fact, her talking badly and poorly about the victims, you know. And that's heartbreaking. That's heartbreaking. They've been through enough. So I've got notes here. Now, I want to kind of switch over to Dr. John, her husband, who, again, I believe his official title is a clinical forensic psychologist. Again, correct me if I'm wrong, down in the comment section below. He works with mental health, basically. He's able to diagnose and like, and again, that's what's interesting. That's what's so interesting about their channel. It's so fascinating to hear his diagnosis of why certain people commit these crimes. Like, what could be the problem here? And I know they, like, one of their catchphrases, and I'm paraphrasing, is that they say, like, understanding criminals is a better way to understand ourselves, that we can see like where it could have gone wrong and like different choices we can make to understand why we react to things the way we do, why we do things the way we do. And that's so fascinating to me. I love psychology, I love philosophy, I love theory. Um, I'm not someone who has to have like a yes or no direct answer. To me, things I can live in the gray, I can live in the nuance of things. And so I really enjoyed that aspect of their channel. In fact, I really only listened to episodes that Dr. John was also in. We would listen, Todd and I would listen to a lot of their Dr. John's breakdowns when we would go on long road trips. So fascinating, right? And so I want to pivot to him a little bit. And he called his wife's 9-hour live her being vulnerable. And I don't know if that's what that was. Like, I think being vulnerable is like when I had to go to the police to file my first police report, I was shaking. I was scared. That I was vulnerable. I cried in the police station. Like, I just started crying, talking to the police officer because I was so scared and I just wanted whatever help I could get. That's vulnerable. I don't understand how a 9-hour live is being vulnerable. Now, here's the thing, too. Dr. John, like any psychiatrist or psychologist or any human, we're humans. Everybody's a human being. Psychiatrists, psychologists, they're allowed to make mistakes because they're human. They're allowed to have feelings because they're human. Their job is to actually, they're like specialists, right? In human feeling and human emotion. And so they themselves are allowed to have that. But I think from a professional perspective, and I heard another channel talk about that, and I apologize, I can't remember which channel it was. I've watched so much coverage of this. As a professional forensic psychologist, Dr. John is obviously going to have confirmation bias because that's his wife. So shouldn't he recuse himself from giving any type of clinical perspective on the situation since he is actively a part of it? Like, if you're a part of the emotional turmoil, are you really in a space to have a clear head to give a clinical diagnosis? I mean, I don't know. I'm not a psychiatrist. I'm not a psychologist. I don't know what the rules are. But is it possible, Dr. John, if you were ever to see this, that maybe you're too emotionally attached to actually see things clearly? Is there confirmation bias happening? And if there is, that's nothing to be ashamed of. Like, that you're a human, you love your wife, like that's the mother of your child. Like, obviously you're going to take her side, even if maybe her side isn't the right side. And I don't know who's right and wrong in this. I'm just giving my perspective on what's going on. um because I don't think a 9-hour live is being vulnerable. I just don't. And I do have personal opinions about what I actually think is going on between Lauren and Dr. John, but I'm not going to give those because that's just me speculating and I don't know them. I've never talked to them. So this is just gut feelings from my perspective. I just think there's a weird power dynamic in their relationship and I don't know if he wears the pants. I think she might wear the pants. And again, just because you're a psychiatrist or a psychologist does not mean that you are safe from making a mistake or falling. I don't know if Lauren has a personality disorder. A lot of people are trying to diagnose her with one. I don't know. I mean, I don't know her and I'm not a therapist, so I don't know. I did watch part of her story on Mormon Stories and it was touching. Like, there's a lot about her story that's very there's a lot of humanity there. Like, I felt connections to her because she struggled with stuff I think a lot of us in different ways struggle with. I didn't grow up in a Mormon family, but I did grow up in a family that, a Southern culture that focuses a lot on like how a woman looks because that's, Southern women always are supposed to be dressed to the nines and there's like so there's a lot about her story that I connected with that I had similar experiences with. But then again, depending on what you go through in life, it's not necessarily the trauma that makes you who you are, it's how you react to the trauma. So is it possible that maybe her reaction to the trauma has caused maybe a little bit of narcissism? I don't know. That's just me speculating. I'm not diagnosing her or anything. This is just me speculating. This is not fact. This is just my perspective. Is there narcissism here? Because that's the vibe I kind of get. Is there a little bit of covert narcissism, which, from my understanding, that's the hardest narcissism to diagnose and to combat because it's covert. Is it what they call traumatic narcissism, where a person develops narcissistic tendencies due to past trauma, which I think all of us have a little bit of that in us, like that knee-jerk reaction to protect ourselves. Maybe I don't know. I do feel like there was some gaslighting going on though. I feel like there was gaslighting going on from Dr. John as well, but I don't know if he intended that to happen. And this is just again my perspective, guys. This is not fact. I just feel like I have to give my opinion because I have recommended their channel and I probably will continue to recommend some episodes from their channel that are good references for certain shows, certain stories we're covering here on Esoteric Atlanta in the future. I don't know. It's all nuanced, yeah? But I just feel like there's a weird dynamic between the two of them. And again, I don't even know if I should speak on it because it's not my relationship, but I just think that maybe Dr. John is not the best person to be clinically um, discussing this case because he's a part of the case. You know, like I don't think Lori Vallow is the best person to explain why she did the crime she did and the motivating factors. Like I think if there is something going on with Lauren, a mental issue going on with Lauren, if that is the case, her husband is going to have empathy for her and love her and probably is going to give a wrong diagnosis in order to protect her and in order to protect himself as well, right? To keep that fantasy alive. So, anyway, I also kind of already had experiences regarding their community, their hidden gems. A long time ago, I had done a coverage of Gypsy Rose. I've gone back and forth with her a lot, and I love all the Gypsy Rose content creators. I've had a few of them on my channel. I think they're doing the Lord's work, exposing the truth about Gypsy Rose. And I did watch Dr. John's coverage of Gypsy Rose. And I agreed with a lot of what he said. I thought it was very interesting. He also said that he did not believe that Dee Dee had Munchausen by proxy. Fantastic. But there was something in his coverage that really he got dead wrong, like absolutely wrong. And if you guys remember, if you were here for that, he talked a lot about the claims that Gypsy made about her mother putting a cow's tongue in a jar and burying it in the backyard. And he kind of dug deep into that about being obsessed with witchcraft because of the wizard she had tattooed on her. And he really just created a mountain out of a molehill, like a nothing burger. And I said something about that in my episode that I'm going to push back a little bit here, Dr. John. And it's not, and I even think I said, I'm kind of paraphrasing what I said, it's not Dr. John's fault that he came to this conclusion because Dr. John is not from the South. If you are from the South and you understand Southern culture, the story about her mom allegedly, which I don't even think Dee Dee did this, allegedly putting a jar with a cow's tongue in the backyard is literally a nothing burger. Like it's nothing. And I know from people who are not from the South that might seem so crazy, but y'all, if you've been on Esoteric Atlanta for a while, what do I say? Why did I start this channel? I started this channel to talk about Southern stories because the South is very eccentric. I have had I have been blessed in my life to travel the world and live in multiple countries and multiple parts of the United States. And I've always maintained that I am so grateful to be from the Deep South. There's nowhere else in the world that I would rather be from than the Deep South, because where I come from is literally the most eccentric place in the world. It's very subtle. And I've shared this story before, but in case I have new people watching, I'm going to share it again. I'm going to give you an example of what I mean. When I was born in 1983. So in the 90s, I was like a teenager, and there was a book that came out called Midnight in the Garden of Good and Evil. That book became a New York Times bestseller. It was based on a true story about a journalist that was covering an unaliving, this wild unaliving that happened in Savannah, Georgia. And it was such a best-selling novel book that it was turned into a movie. The movie, Kevin Spacey played like the bad guy. There was lots of big names in it, and basically the movie kind of mimicked the book, where this journalist from New York, John Cusack, is that his name? He plays the journalist. He comes down to Savannah to cover this case. Bobby Lee Cook, famous lawyer here from Georgia. I actually went to school with his grandkids. My mom is really good friends with one of his daughters. Matlock, this TV series Matlock with Andy Griffith is based off of the late Bobby Lee Cook. But Bobby Lee Cook was the defense attorney in this case. It was a wild case. And what made it even more wild for this journalist was how much folk magic, hoodoo, voodoo, whatever you want to call it, was involved in this case. And one of the opening scenes is this guy in Savannah. You're introduced to these cast of characters in Savannah, which I guess was entertaining for people. They seem like normal people to me because most towns in the South have a cast of characters. But this guy every morning would walk a ghost dog. And I will never forget watching a morning, like a Good Morning America, some morning television series with my mom as a teenager, and they're talking about this particular scene of this guy walking this ghost dog. And like, are you serious? Did this really happen? Was this real? And I remember being very confused by this conversation they were having, because I remember thinking, doesn't everybody walk ghost dogs? Like, doesn't everybody have people in their town that walk ghost dogs? Like, that's normal in the South. That's Jerry down the street. That's Mr. Waters. He walks his ghost dog everybody. Like, that's just normal. Like, what do you mean that's weird? And that's when I started to realize that, oh, like there's a deep culture down here where some people think what we do might be weird, but it's normal for us. It's eccentric, right? Every single person goes to church on Sunday, but on Sunday night, they're doing root magic. You know, my mother was the first person. My mother was big in the church. She was a church lady, she big. We knew the Bible, but my mom would do things that could be considered magic. I never really considered that growing up. Like, I'll give you a more recent example. Well, actually more like 13 years ago, because my nephew just turned 13. When my sister first found out she was pregnant with her first child, I was sitting at my mom's house and she walked in. This was like before she was even showing. I remember she walked in. My mother went up to my sister without even asking her, pulled a piece of my sister's hair out of her head, and then pulled a ring off of my sister's finger, tied the hair to the ring, grabbed my sister's palm, and let it swing like a pendulum to see what the sex of the baby was going to be. That's magic. It had to be, my mom explained it had to be one of my sister's hair, and it had to be one of my sister's ring to get the energy to feel what the baby was. And all four of my sister's pregnancies, it's been accurate. How many people's moms here paint blue on their porch ceilings outside to keep away spirits? How many times do you see salt on someone's front door to keep away spirits? How many times do you see women in the South brushing cinnamon out of their house for good luck? Like, this is all folk magic that is just normal down here in the South. And so, with burying a tongue in the backyard, that might seem extreme. My mother has buried things in jars in the backyard, not cow tongues, but there was a property that she was trying to sell probably like 20 years ago, and they were having a hard time selling it. And so she went and did some magic. She took one of the saints, even though we're not Catholic, she figured out the magic spell she needed to get one of these saints to bury it upside down in the backyard. And then she did. That's magic. That's a spell. And that's normal down here. That's so normal. That's just a Tuesday. That's a Tuesday here in the South. I've talked about this before. I was up in Salem, Massachusetts a couple of years ago, and I was horrified at the way that they would not let people really interact with the graves. It's a whole different story. I'm not even going to get into it, but about what I think about Salem. But that would never fly down here in the South. Are you kidding me? You'd be laughed out of town. You go to a graveyard here in the South, doesn't matter if it's a predominantly white cemetery, predominantly black, doesn't matter. You're going to see seashells on a lot of graves. You're going to see money placed on graves. You're going to see toys placed on graves. You're going to see trinkets placed on graves. Almost every grave is going to have them, and they're going to change and rotate, and you know not to touch it because that's somebody doing something to appease the soul. And we're not talking about people who have just recently passed. Some of these graves people are doing this on have been gone for like 200 years. You're going to see offerings being made. There's a famous ghost story out of Savannah of a little girl that plays in the cemetery. You go to that cemetery, Bonaventure Cemetery, famous cemetery, where Midnight in the Garden of Good and Evil, that's the book cover with that's the cemetery, Bonaventure. And people go and leave offerings to this little girl, toys, balls, doll babies for her to play with. And those women and men are also probably deacons in their church. My mother told us the first story of the gray man of South Carolina. I've got that story tagged below in some of my story time videos. This is just normal. And when Gypsy Rose first told that story about the cow tongue and the I was like, girl, when I heard that on the documentary, stop, girl. You're trying to weave a story that is just normal upbringing here in the South. Like this means nothing. This has nothing to do with your story. Your mama doing magic has nothing to do with your story, Gypsy. Like because all of our mamas did that, all of them. So I don't, that's just, again, part of why the South is one of the most eccentric places. People think of the South as being like fundamental Christians. And yes, there are fundamental Christians here in the South, but they are a minority. Even though they are the loudest, they are a minority. I mean, the church ladies themselves, my friend Angie, who's very Southern, she talks about the church ladies being a coven because the church ladies, you better be Protestant too, not Catholic. We don't do Catholics here in this part of the South. It has to be Protestant. And they have their little cliques and their little, clubs, depending on whether you're Presbyterian, Baptist, Methodist, whatever. And you have your little church ladies and they'll have a prayer group. My mother was part of a prayer group. And as my friend Angie says, it's a coven. They're in a coven because they come together and they have hors d'oeuvres, they gossip, and then they like do these prayers. And the prayer is also a form of gossip. That's how they openly share news is by praying for people, right? Like, they stand after they've had their hors d'oeuvres, their lunch and drink, had some wine. They stand in a circle, hold their hands, and they pray, dear baby Jesus, we just pray that you will be with Mary Sue and Jack because we know Mary Sue's having an affair. Like that's how these are made up names, by the way. No correlation to any living person. So I'm not spreading, it's just made up names. So they're gossiping by praying. That's just how it is. And so you never want your name, heaven forbid your name get brought up in a prayer coven, in a prayer circle because it's to gossip about you. Like that's just the South. I mean, there's a whole TikTok about these old Southern church cookbooks where this guy goes through and does these old recipes. And there was one recipe where there was one ingredient that just ruined the dish. And you should have seen the comment sections. All the people are like, bro, that's what they did. These old Southern women would do this. If somebody was known for their chocolate chip cookies or somebody was known for their pineapple casserole and they were known to be the best maker of this particular casserole or this particular cookie, if the church came to them and said, now, Mrs. Johnson, we would really love it if you would submit your sweet potato pie casserole to us because the church we need to raise some funds and everybody loves your sweet potato pie. So could you just submit the recipe so it would help us raise money for and Mr. Oh, absolutely. I'll be more than happy to. Absolutely, Reverend. I will get you that. Let's help the little children. I will get sugar. I'll get you that as soon as I can. Well, Mrs. Johnson's going to sit there and put down all of her recipe, but she's going to add one ingredient in it that's going to throw off the recipe. So, regardless of who makes this recipe, no one is ever going to make sweet potato pie casserole as good as Mrs. Johnson. This is how the South is. Everybody knows bless your heart means you're a dumbass. But if you have a Southern woman tell you that you're looking mighty healthy, she called you fat. That is how the South is. And so for Dr. John, I know this is making a long story short. I'm trying to prove a point here. For Dr. John to weave this whole like Macbeth, like the witches and Dee Dee, and it was bullshit. That was all a fantasy in his own mind because he does not understand Southern culture. He doesn't understand. And again, I said in my video, not his fault. He just doesn't understand that that's nothing in the South. That's why when Gypsy made the spaghetti video, every single Southern woman in the world was like, oh, girl, we know what you put in that spaghetti. Because this is a normal Wednesday, a normal Tuesday, a normal Thursday here in the South, right? So, I said something about that. I was like, I love his work, but he was absolutely wrong about this. Well, the flying monkeys that came after me in that comment section, the gaslighting that started happening. How dare I say that Dr. John was wrong? How dare I think I know anything about Southern culture? Like it was like Dr. John, the flying monkeys were like, Dr. John is the one who knows, not you. What? What? And I felt like at that point that Dr. John would be somebody that if I were to say, hey man, I think you totally got this wrong and here's why, I thought at that point he would be the type of person that would like listen and be like, you know what? Let me reconsider that. You know, like if he, I think he's from like Chicago, correct me if I'm wrong. It would be like me trying to diagnose somebody based off of some cultural innuendo that I didn't understand. And if somebody from Chicago was like, Bryce, it's really not that big, you made a bigger deal out of this because literally, I mean, everybody thinks that voodoo is only practiced in New Orleans. If you think voodoo is only practiced in New Orleans, you know nothing about the South. You know nothing about the South. In fact, New Orleans is one of the places where voodoo is the least practiced. It is mostly practiced over where I live. People just don't really talk about it that much. If you know, you know. It just becomes folk magic. Okay. But that's just New Orleans has made a market off of that, and God bless them for it. Like God, you do you, boo. Like be an entrepreneur. Like bills got to be paid. You got to get the tourists. Like you do you. I have no problem with people doing that. But I think people have a misunderstanding because the rest of the South has not made a market off of it. They have not done really anything to market this as a tourist attraction. And I think that was shocking when Midnight in the Garden of Good and Evil came out that people didn't realize that there are witch doctors and medicine men and all that kind of stuff all over the South, all over the South. And so, needless to say, in as it relates to Dr. John, I really felt like if he heard me say that, he would reconsider because it is a cultural, it's just a cultural thing. It doesn't really mean anything. It just means Dee Dee's. I mean, everybody's mama puts jars in the ground here in the South. Like everybody's mama does that. Like that's not that's normal here. But the flying monkeys were so unbelievably abusive. Really were trying to discredit me. Even though I said everything else about Dr. John's diagnosis, I really appreciated and thought he was spot on. And that was my first kind of taste over their flying monkeys. And again, that's not at that point I was like, well, that's not Dr. John's fault. Sorry, guys, my boyfriend walked in to get his workout clothes. So, anyway, but that's not Dr. John's fault. And I don't think that, obviously at that point I was like, well, the flying monkeys, you can't control what other people say. But it just gave me kind of a bad taste in my mouth. Like, is this acceptable to them that people who aren't even really criticizing them, just saying, hey, maybe you missed something that they would not like. I don't know. If somebody was doing that for me on another person's channel, I think I would address it on my channel and be like, don't do that, guys. Like people are allowed to disagree with people. I know like in today's society that's hard for people, but nonetheless, that was my first experience with their flying monkeys, and I'm sure I'm going to get their flying monkeys in this video. I maybe not because I'm so shadow banned that maybe they won't see it. But yeah, I that was my first real kind of like pushback where I kind of had a little bit of like skepticism. Nonetheless, I when this whole thing with Lauren came out, and I did share, I really appreciated Dr. John's like breakdown response video, which I think I can show you guys this. I shared it on I put it in the description box of a recent video with Todd that I did is this one where he does talk about the it's almost a 4 hour video where he does talk about the psychological aspects of being cyber stalked. I appreciated that because I saw a lot of the side effects of that trauma in myself. So it gave me some answers as to why I can be kind of prickly sometimes, and it's because of all the stalking that has happened to me and the threats that have, like that's just normal PTSD. So that gave me some kind of solace in my own self-reflection. But a lot of people push back from that because he really went hard again for his wife. And he even, if it, I think it's this video where he even kind of diagnoses her stalker as like anti-person, which I don't think you're allowed to do. Like, I think that kind of crosses some, I mean, I don't know. I'm not a therapist. I'm not on any board, but I think that might cross some ethical boundaries. I don't know. So I know there's been pushback, and then I found a channel that I am loving now, and this is a channel called Difficult Research. I will tag her down in the description box below. And I feel so guilty, you guys, because the woman who runs this channel called Difficult Research is a woman named Kresha. She is the daughter of Kay Woodcock, the aunt of JJ Vallow, one of the victims of Lori Vallow. I feel guilty because I had no idea that she even existed until this happened. And I feel so bad about that because I did look into this case. I did a few shows on this case, especially on other channels, and I did not know that she existed. And I did watch a lot of Hidden True Crime to listen to their interviews with the families to get some more information for my own research, right? And I just broke my heart that this woman has existed and she is also a victim. She is a victim. That is her nephew. It is her uncle. It's her cousin that have lost their lives. She is a just as much of a victim as her mother or her father. And so I felt so bad that I didn't know about her. And then I started watching more of her videos and I realized there's a reason why. And it seems like she had a really hard time with Lauren from Hidden True Crime when Lauren was, and I don't want to speak for her, so I'm gonna tag her channel down below. Please go watch her videos. 'Cause I don't want to put words in her mouth, but I'm just giving you kind of paraphrasing what I have taken from her. Is that she had bad feelings around Lauren. Like she didn't trust her. And in this time of mass vulnerability for their family, it seems that her parents kind of got maybe love bombed, groomed. These are my words, not theirs, my words, by Lauren. And there was kind of a rift at a time when the family was already fractured and trying to figure out what was going on and pick up their pieces. And I think Kresha just kind of got pushed to the side. As she said, I think she's the one who said she felt like she was invisible. And I agree with her because I didn't know who she was. So absolutely, if Kresha sees this, I will validate that for you. You had every right to feel invisible because that's you were made invisible. And I don't know, I know there's some speculation of text messages that Laura sent about Kresha that weren't that nice. And I don't know the full story. But I'm going to go on my speculation. And I have sent an email to Kresha. I know that she's crazy busy right now because I'm so happy for her. Her channel is exploding right now, and people are finally like figuring out who she is and actually listening to her. And so God bless her. Like I am so happy that justice and karma is being served and she can speak now and people, she's not invisible anymore. Um, she seems like such a nice, humble, kind woman. And so I hope that justice is coming for her. So please go watch her channel and hear her words. I did email her. Again, I'm getting off track. I did email her because I would love to have her. And I'll tell you guys why in a minute. And this is why I think she was pushed to the side. We're going to get there. But I did email her because what she had to say about her own research into her nephews and her uncles unaliving is powerful. is powerful because she is figuring out things about MK Ultra. She's figuring out things about the Mormon Church. She is figuring out things that are hidden from our society that you and I, if you've been on this journey with me for 5 years, talk about all the time. Hence the reason why I'm so shadow banned, right? Is because I talk about these uncomfortable truths. Yeah, that the powers that be, the establishment doesn't want you to know. And so in my email to her, I said, I believe you. I believe you. I back you in what you're I know that people will make you feel like you're crazy when you stumble upon these things. And sometimes you don't even, they say ignorance is bliss, right? Ignorance is bliss. But when you're forced to face the truth, when you're forced to see what's really going on in this world, sometimes people will make you feel crazy for believing there's more to the story that's not being reported. The Delphi case, the guy who's been charged, and I think the case is over. Correct me if I'm wrong, that he was found guilty. I know there's a lot of speculation that he's not actually guilty. And I have not delved into that. I've kind of remained on the peripheral of that because I've got so much on my shoulders right now. That just seems like a lot of research that I would like to do one day, but I just haven't had the time to do it now. But it seems like Krusha has done research into that because she made a comment on one of her shows that she did not agree with Lauren, excuse me, on the outcome. And so I'm curious. I would love to see what she means when she says that. Are you talking about the ritualistic stuff, the occult stuff that a lot of other people in the fringes are saying, wait a minute, Delphi is not what you think it is. So I emailed her because I would love to have her come on my channel and have a voice on my channel and present her research to you guys, my awesome esoteric Atlanta community, because you guys are like-minded and I know you will give her the respect and you will believe her. And I just think it's powerful coming from her because her nephew, her uncle have been victims of this. And so it's personal. And when it's personal, it's different. And so I have emailed her. I send the email. I don't know if she'll be able to get back to me. I know she's swamped right now. I know she's I think one of her lives, she had like 2,000 people in one of her lives. And I'm so happy for her. So I understand if she doesn't get back. Like I get that, I'm not everyone's cup of tea. So she might not want to come on. I totally get that. That's totally fine. But I am going to, however, tell you guys to go check her channel out and support her because her research is phenomenal. I'm sure I every time she mentions stuff, I'm like, keep talking. I want to hear, keep talking. And then she'll like cut herself off a little bit. I think she's a little nervous to like present these theories because it to someone who's never experienced this or researched this, it does seem a little crazy, right? But you know, sometimes the truth is is crazier than fiction, right? Like it's wild and there is a mass cover up. And I think there was some from my perspective, and again, this is my perspective. I feel like she alluded to the fact that Lauren made her feel like she was crazy because of her research. And maybe this is just I could be wrong. And that maybe that was partially the separation that happened between people want things to be tied up in a nice little bow. It's easier to think that somebody just went crazy and committed a crime than to accept that there is an orchestrated occult practices happening in the background. Because if there's orchestrated occult practices happening in the background, none of us are safe. But if it's just some crazy person, it's a freak accident. So I think that there is security in believing the narrative that's been told to us, but there's power in believing the truth. Yeah. So that's just kind of what I got. The feeling I got from her was that she had kind of been shunned, like a lot of us have who are watching right now, were shunned at some point in these last 5 years for saying, I don't think the Matrix is what we think it is. I think there's more going on here than meets the eye. Y'all ain't gonna believe this, but there is some wicked. Speaking of jars and backyards, Dr. John, it's not the South you need to be worried about, right? It's not Dee Dee Blanchard you need to be worried about. Like, this is some high elite stuff that's going on. And then it brought up this something I had never considered. I'm so upset with myself for not considering this because I am big on looking for controlled opposition. And I cannot believe that I never once considered that there is a possibility, not saying it's true, this is just a possibility, that Lauren Matthias and Dr. John are controlled opposition. I heard it mentioned, and now I'm like, oh, damn. Wow. Because we know that Mormon church. I love Mormons. The Mormon people are the kindest people. They're so nice for the most part. So I'm separating the people from the church. The church we know is corrupt. We know it's a form of Satanism. If you've been on this channel for a long time, we know we get a lot of their rituals from Freemasonry. So, and Lauren Matthias is a Mormon. Now, again, I don't want to jump to conclusions. Just because she's a Mormon does not mean, hear me when I say this, people, don't go over there. Please do not go over there and harass them. Please do not do that. I know most of you won't. You're respectful people. This is just us speculating. They kind of opened up if they had never made that 9 hour live, if Lauren had never made a 9 hour live, we would not be here right now talking about this. So they opened up Pandora's box. So now we're going to look at everything that comes out of Pandora's box, right? But that does not give us an excuse to go and harass them. So please do not go and harass Lauren and Dr. John. I'm still subscribed to their channel because I do want to see his perspective on other cases, but now I'm going to be looking at it from a different lens. Different lens. Lauren is a Mormon. Dr. John is not. She is. She grew up a Mormon. She's been a kind of coy with her religious beliefs, but she is on Mormon Stories. You can go watch her Mormon Stories talking about this. On top of that, Lauren did work as an anchor for mainstream media. Now, again, this is all just circumstantial evidence. There's probably plenty of people who are LDS, who also work for mainstream media, who are not corrupt, who are not controlled opposition, who are just living their lives. So this is just circumstantial. This is not factual. And it does seem their channel got real big real fast. We opened up, Hidden True Crime and I opened our channels up around the same time. They have blown up, which good for them. They're over 300,000 subscribers. They're making a shit ton of money. Good for them. I, on the other hand, probably work just as hard as they do, if not even harder sometimes, while losing money. I've lost tons of money doing this. I do not make any money off of this. People think I don't. The only financial support that I have coming from this work is my patrons and producers, whom I love. I thank them. I'm so grateful for the people who tip money every month to help me. Like, for my patrons and producers, if I don't tell you enough, like, you literally have kept this channel going. If it was not for them, this channel would probably have been gone a long time ago. And so I am so grateful for the people who can only spend like $5 a month to the ones who spend 25 a month. Like, you guys are amazing. You're amazing. If you want to do that, information is in the description box below. I have even considered doing memberships here on Esoteric Atlanta just to try to help get the algorithms to like release my videos. I'm still, there might come a day where we have to do that too, where we do like 99 cents a month and just do a few like members only like lives or something. I don't know. I'm still trying to figure it out just to try to keep my channel out of the shackles that YouTube seems to want to put my channel in. And I mean, look at my numbers. I have 55,000 subscribers. Some of my videos only get like 200 views. That is heavy shadow banning. And so I know that the flip side of that is I know that there is something about my research that's accurate. And not just something, there are probably a lot of things about my research that are accurate for them to do that to me. I know that. That's kind of the catch-22, right? There's something I'm right about. There's something within my research, maybe a few somethings that I'm right about. And that scares YouTube because it could influence people. It could influence other people to wake up to certain things. But they, even though they cover true crime and they have all the trigger words, the unaliving words, the essay words in true crime, it's just a clusterfuck of words you're not supposed to say on YouTube. Every case they cover has that. But yet they are not shadow banned. And yet they have amassed all these subscribers because they're not shadow. Why? Why? Why do they get to do all this and have success with their research, but those of us who are literally busting our asses get put in the corner and told to shut up? Is it because they're controlled opposition? Is it because they are controlled opposition? That's my question. Are Lauren Matthias and Dr. John Matthias controlled opposition? Are they? Are they? I can't believe I never considered that before. So I thank you, Kresha, for mentioning that because it gave me a different perspective. It makes sense to me. She's a Mormon. She used to be an anchor. They started the same time I did. They cover cases that involve all the words you're not supposed to say on YouTube, but yet they have never been shadow banned. They've never been restricted. They are pushing the mainstream media narrative with every case. And sometimes the mainstream media narrative is the correct narrative. In some cases, it is. But in a lot of cases, especially the big cases, it isn't. Just like Lauren created a 9-hour live to push a narrative, is this what they are doing? I don't know. I don't know. That's just a question I pose, and I thank Kresha for bringing that up. And I really would love to have her come on my channel and go into this stuff because this is freaking fascinating. And so please, you guys go subscribe to her, Difficult Research. Please, please, please go subscribe to her to support her. Um, let's see. Oh, there's one other thing I have on my list here. So we're going to backtrack a little bit before I close out about Dr. John that other people have noticed. I noticed this too. I think it was in that 4-hour live where he talks about this. Correct me if I'm wrong. There's so many of them. I hope I'm getting the right episode. They talk about somebody that is a part of this like stalking group that had a falling out with Lauren years ago. Apparently, this person used to be on Hidden True Crime. I don't remember her, but that, I mean, I don't see every episode of Hidden True Crime, but this woman, I think it might be the same woman who's written a book. There's a backstory. I don't know. Anyway, the point is Dr. John. Dr. John came down hard on this particular woman. Apparently, again, she used to be on their channel a lot. And somebody, I guess, in the chat had asked a question, a correlation between JJ Vallow and Dr. John's own son. And he was going to give, from his words, paraphrasing, like a very reflective, powerful answer. And this guest, like, interrupted him and kind of talked over him, and he was really mad about it. And I personally thought he absolutely overreacted in that. And then somebody else brought it up in another video, so I was like, I'm glad I'm not the only one. I thought he acted pretty immaturely about it, and I kept thinking, is Dr. John does he not learned anything when it comes to media over these last 5 years? This is the hardest thing, one of the hardest things about running a channel or being on a channel or doing a podcast or doing radio, especially if it's live, right? If it's not live, this can be fixed, but if it's live, you cannot have dead air. You cannot have dead air. Ask anybody who's on radio about this. And this is one of the most stressful things that I've had to deal. Thank God I'm loquacious. Thank God I'm good with words because this is hard. Like Todd and I've had to have conversations about this. He's gotten mad at me before when we've done shows afterwards because he'll pause to think about something and then I start talking. I'm like, Todd, it's because we can't have dead air. So I'm just trying to fill the air so you can come up with your answer because we can't sit here and stare at each other while you're thinking about an answer. You're going to lose people. People are going to sign off. It's dead air. It's like the number one rule when it comes to radio, podcasting, or YouTube. It's the number one rule. You cannot have dead air. When it's pre-recorded, you can edit it out. But when it's live, you cannot edit it out. So I think what Dr. John is not understanding, because he kept saying the people in the chat hated her. Like, why would you? That's you bullying her now, Dr. John. Have you not considered that when you were pondering your response, there was dead air and she panicked? Because that is a horrible situation to be in. Again, it's happened to me a lot where no one's talking. The person's not answering the question right away. You're just staring at each other on Zoom and on your head you're like, "Oh shit, oh shit, oh shit, oh shit, oh shit. I got to say something because we're supposed to also be entertaining people. Like part of this is entertainment." So Dr. John, have you ever considered that? That she started talking because you were quiet. And you're not having a private conversation. You're not sitting at a restaurant or a coffee house where it's just the three of you chatting and she can give you time to reflect on your answer. Have you ever considered that you are doing this live and therefore it's not just the three of you having a conversation. You're having a conversation involving the audience and also entertaining the audience. I think Dr. John needs to apologize for that, for saying all those nasty things. Just my opinion. Just my opinion. All right. There's one more thing I want to cover before we close out today, but I obviously have to tell you guys again, our sponsor, because that's really the only way I can make money. And it's my job. It's what I love to do. I love what I do for a living offline. If you're new here, I'm the only female in the state of Georgia. This is something I'm very proud of. I worked very hard for this, who is authorized to teach a traditional form of yoga. Most of the yoga that you see in the Western world, 99% of it is fake. Vinyasa flow, fake. Yin yoga, fake. Restorative yoga, fake. All of these yogas are frauds. They are not actually yogas from India. My teacher in India used to get very upset. In fact, if you even mentioned the Yoga Alliance or mentioned Vinyasa Flow, he would turn red in the face. And some people would get kicked out, right? Like it's stolen. So when you're going to Vinyasa Flow classes or Yin classes, you are going to literally culturally appropriated stolen yoga classes. With that being said, I know there is value in some of those classes, but nonetheless, I spent many years in India studying Eastern philosophy, Sanskrit, and this very, very hard form of yoga called Ashtanga, one of the traditional forms, very intense physically. Before YouTube, I was teaching Mysore, which is how we teach this form of yoga. But once lockdown happened, that's when I started my channel. Things changed. And as my channel got a lot bigger, I decided that it would behoove me to actually share what I knew because there is a lot of what I consider to be salvation in the Eastern philosophy that's very different from the Western culture of church. And it's very empowering and it's very peaceful. And in my opinion, that philosophy is really important. And so, what I've done, if you've been here for a while, you know that according to Eastern philosophy, these old sacred texts, not just Eastern philosophy, also in old Egyptian mystery schools, Western occultism, all that kind of stuff. The basis of spirituality is exercise because the soul is in the body. It's living and breathing in the body. The body is the energetic form of the Shakti, which is the soul's projection of karma in this life. That might sound like gobbledygook to you. Regardless, like fitness is important. It's not just for your physical health, it's not just for your mental health, it's also for your spiritual health. And so what I have done with my friend Paula since my platform got big and I was able to whom much is given, much is expected, I was able to share this incredible opportunity I've had in my life to go to India and to share my blessings of studying at one of the hardest schools to get into in the world. I've been able to like share it on a global scale with people and hopefully do some good, hopefully serve others in some way to help people see that you're not this terrible sinner who ha, maybe will go to heaven. Like, no, that's you can relax a little bit. It's different. And so what I've done is I've taken the philosophy and the physical exercises, and I've put them into modern exercises for our online fitness boutique called Fusion Body Studio. We call it Fusion Body Studio because we're fusing all of these things, fitness, mental health, spiritual health, philosophy, into the body, into one existence within you. And so I've taken this really hard concept, this really hard workout, and I've married it into things like bar, into walking videos, into strength videos. And so instead of coming to these exercises, these exercise workout videos with this idea that you've got to punish yourself or you've got to do this just to be healthy, nothing more, just to be like look good in a bathing suit. There's a deeper understanding of what's happening in your body. That's my goal at Fusion Body Studio. And so my friend Paula and I have opened up this online Fusion Body Fitness Boutique. We have two tiers. Tier one is just $25 a month, literally the price of a drop-in, 1 day, 1 hour class drop-in at a yoga studio. You get the whole month. You get 4 new workouts every single month on top of all the workouts don't go away, right? It's a growing library of different levels, different types of exercises, all that stuff. You get all of that for $25 a month. So cheap. A lot of people use it as their like secondary source of workout. That's totally fine. That's why we made it cheap. And if fitness is all you're interested in, if you just want an at-home fitness boutique, a fun fitness boutique to do your work at home, you don't care about the spiritual philosophy, then that's tier one is great for you. Tier two, however, is $40 a month, which again is so cheap. I've paid thousands and thousands and thousands of dollars for my education, and I'm trying to make this as cheap as possible. $40 a month is tier two, which gives you tier one, everything in tier one, the workout classes, the live classes with me once a month, everything like that, on top of a library of philosophical study, the Bhagavad Gita, the alchemy of movement, health, healing, and beyond, Ayurvedic look at health, Vedic chanting courses, quantum healing courses. It gives you, that's kind of tier two is kind of adding in the academic approach to all this philosophy. And so tier two is like really all encompassing. We also have other teachers on there. In fact, that's my goal is to have a plethora of master teachers from different lineages all over the world on Fusion Body at one place. Right now, we have my friend Cindy Ola, who is an Iyengar on Usara person. She's got some classes up there. We've also got my partner Todd, who is one of the oldest, most senior teachers here in the Southeast. He's had an incredible background of experience. He's got a few workout videos on there and some Vedic chanting courses on there. We're going to keep growing that Vedic chanting course library. We have also opened up a bar for men where he is doing that. It's great. He's doing bar classes for men to help get men into this really, really unique form of physical fitness, really changes your body, keeps your body healthy and strong. And so if that's something that you would like to do, if this is interesting for you and you would like to try it, you can use my name, Bryce 20, BRICE, all caps, BRICE 20 at checkout to not only get the cheap prices, but also get 20% off of those cheap prices. So it becomes even cheaper for your first 6 months with us. On top of that, you get the first 7 days for free. So regardless, if you decide, if you've been thinking about trying it, but you're not sure if you want to spend the money, you can sign up. And before we charge your credit card, you have 7 days, a full week to try out the academy. And after those 7 days, if you decide that this is not for you, totally fine. You just cancel your account before your card gets charged. So with that being said, if that's something you're interested in, that is what pays my bills here. And that is something I love. It's my, besides doing research and spying on dead people on Esoteric Atlanta, my love, my big love, and my job, the job that I've been in for 19 years now, is to teach this. And I'm so happy that I can expand my teaching outside of the Atlanta area and go on a big platform and help people all over the world with this information that has helped me. That's been so important to me in my life. And so again, I try to keep it as cheap as possible so more people can join and get the benefit of this. And so again, all that information is down in the description box below. If you have any questions, please don't hesitate to reach out, and Paula or I or both will get back to you and help you as much as we can. All right. For the last thing I want to talk about today, just a little bit of housekeeping. I just have to talk about this. I understand that in today's world, people feel like they are very entitled. I understand that in today's world, on both sides of the political aisle, in all aspects of life, we have this weird feeling or our thought process that feelings are facts. Feelings are not facts. They're just not. And I had an incident over on Rumble. I stopped responding with Tamara's latest video where we did the overview of November, where somebody asked, I talked about the Bhagavad Gita, which I've spoken about a lot, and this concept of Dharma. Well, somebody thought I had used a Latin word. I can't remember the word that meant like post-mortem death or something. I don't know. And they were kind of like telling me to explain myself in the comment section. And I responded, at first I saw the comment and I had no idea what they were talking about because I looked at it for a while. I was like, what are they talking about? I never talked about Latin. Like, we didn't talk about Latin in this episode. What the hell are they talking about? And so I sat with it for a long time and I was like, oh, Dharma. I talked about Dharma. They thought I said a Latin word and they were kind of wanting me to explain myself because I was saying find your Dharma. And so I responded, I said Dharma, and then I spelled it D-H-A, like in caps, said Dharma. I'm not saying this Latin word that you think I'm saying Dharma. And then I realized this person had doctor in her handle on over on the other platform, RUMBLE. And so I clarified. I was like, there's no Latin. I was like, maybe in my head, I was like, maybe I didn't clarify that this was from the Bhagavad Gita or the Mahabharata. You know, the Bhagavad Gita and the Mahabharata are two works of literature that most people are familiar with because in most schools you study it. It's considered one of the greatest pieces of literature. It's a historical, beyond the spiritual implications, it's a historical. Bhagavad Gita, again, one of the most famous literature out there. And I know that a lot of doctors actually study it because of Ayurveda. A lot of medical schools will study the history of medicine. They don't necessarily teach Ayurvedic medicine, but because that is where all forms of medicine come from. That's where Western medicine originates from, is from Ayurveda. And so they have to kind of know that. So I made that comment. I said, no, there's no Latin. Latin is the dead language of the West. Sanskrit is a dead language of the East. Like I'm confused at where this idea of Latin is coming from when we're talking about the Bhagavad Gita. Maybe I didn't say, I thought I said the Mahabharata. I said, why would there be Latin in a Sanskrit book, like a Vedic, like a 5,000-year-old? Like I'm confused. Like why would there be Latin? Like there's no Latin in any Indian literature, just like there's no Sanskrit in Latin literature. These are two separate languages of different cultures. And I said, um, and doctors study this. Like I'm confused because and part of it was me trying to like figure out, did I say the full Bhagavad Gita? I thought I did I? And I was like, don't doctors study this in like medical school? Like, where's the miscommunication here? And I got back a very nasty response saying I was rude, all this kind of stuff. And basically I responded like, listen, if you if you ask a question, you have to expect to get an answer back. I'm not going to coddle an incorrect answer, an incorrect accusation, or an incorrect assumption because it, it will hurt your feelings. Like I'm not gonna, I'm confused. Like you wanted me to just explain myself from what your perception of what I was saying. And when I give you the right answer that I never said that word, that I'm talking about a Sanskrit piece, you then call me rude. Don't ask a question if you don't want to hear the answer. This is how we learn. On and on. Not all of us get to go to India to study the Bhagavad Gita. I've spent a lot of time in India studying things, but I first studied the Bhagavad Gita in the United States. First of all, the first time I studied it was in school in the USA because it was a piece of literature. That's not when it really affected me, though. When it really affected me was studying it here in the United States with my teacher here, again, from a different perspective. By the time I went to India, I was already thoroughly schooled on the Bhagavad Gita. I didn't need to take classes on the Bhagavad Gita in India. It had already been done in the United States. So don't assume that. Don't assume that. So obviously this person was probably embarrassed because their assumptions were so wrong and trying to get me to explain myself off of something I never said. And then me coming back and saying I said Dharma. Obviously that embarrassed them. Their comment was a little bit embarrassing, like cringy when I read it originally, because I thought, oh my God, when I realized what they were saying, and I thought, well, if once I answer this, they might just delete their comment anyway. But instead, they reacted to me. They projected that embarrassment, obviously, on me. And it's not cool, right? That's not cool. I had this happen to me once before. I was even on YouTube. I had this person who had come to like a couple of my Mysore classes when I was teaching Mysore every morning. She wasn't a regular student, and I had like started to teach her part of primary series. And she had just gone through this like stupid teacher training for Vinyasa Flow. And she had this kind of ego about her because she just finished this dumbass teacher training. Like these teacher trainings are scams anyway, but whatever. I was like, oh, that's great. That's great. Now I would teach her Ashtanga. She only came to me a few times, and I would try every time I get a new student, I try to explain to them kind of the basics of Ashtanga. Like it's a set series, it comes from the Yoga Karanta. We learn it in like chunks. You know, I teach it to you, Mysore, I teach it to you 101. Anyway, so she had come to my class like a couple of times, and she was following me on Instagram, and she videotaped herself doing this like obviously vinyasa flow practice. It was not an Ashtanga practice. And she tagged me in it and she said, just so grateful to my teacher. Look at this Ashtanga practice that I've created. I'm just so thankful to my teacher. And she tagged me. And I was put in a very awkward situation at this point because she was claiming that what I had taught her was this particular practice she had like the basis of this practice she had created herself, which is not Ashtanga, right? And so I couldn't just ignore it because I needed to say something because that's my license. I didn't want things to get out of hand and all of a sudden I've lost my authorization because somebody misspoke. And so I privately messaged her and I said, "Hey, beautiful practice you created. Awesome. Looks like it's going to be a great practice that you can teach in your Vinyasa flow classes. However, that is not Ashtanga." And I said, "I'm so sorry if you got there was some confusion." I was like, "Ashtanga is not Vinyasa flow. As a teacher, I do not create the practice before class. Like I'm teaching directly from the Yoga Karanta. It's a system. Every Ashtanga Shala teaches the same thing, has for thousands of years. So I'm so sorry if there was any misunderstanding. Let me know if I can clarify." This was a private message I had sent to her. Didn't embarrass her openly on Ashtanga. Well, the next thing I know, she is creating this whole smear campaign about me. Took a screenshot of the kind message I'd sent her, posted it on her Instagram saying that I couldn't be, why can't I just be supportive of her and just tell her she had done a good job? And I was like, actually, I did tell you you created a beautiful practice. It's just not Ashtanga. You know, so basically she was upset that I corrected and said, hey, that's not actually a that her feelings were hurt over the fact of the matter. But regardless, I had to say something to have receipts in case my authorization came into question because this person was claiming that I had given her the tools to create this. This might not make sense to people who aren't in Ashtanga. Nonetheless, I had to correct it because what she was saying wasn't correct. And it reflected because she tagged me in it, it reflected poorly on me and it could have compromised me. So I had to say something to her so that I had the receipts of proof. She'd only come to my class a couple of times, so it was understandable that there would have been a misunderstanding. I tried to, you know, it was very complimentary of the class she had created, but it just wasn't, it's not Ashtanga. Anyway, and so I had to block her. It became, but this whole Bhagavad Gita over on comment reminded me of that. Like you're damned if you do and you're damned if you don't, you know? Um, and with this person over on RU and BLE with their comment, it was like they wanted me to like explain myself. And when I did go to explain myself and correct her, all of a sudden she projected her embarrassment on me. And I just want to remind people like you can't be coddled, right? Like having somebody answer a question or explain, if you want someone to explain themselves, you got to be prepared to hear what they have to say because you could be wrong. And so I just stopped responding. Like I just like I'm don't ask questions if it's I'm not being rude. I'm answering your question. So I just wanted to put that out there again, you guys. Like, and every time this happens, I'm like, oh great, here comes another smear campaign because I hurt somebody's feelings because I told them the truth. Like, don't open up a can, just like Lauren Matthias, don't open up a can of worms if you don't want those worms getting out, right? And so, or if you do ask a question, just be prepared to have the answer it answered, you know? It's okay to be wrong. I'm wrong a lot. I don't have a problem with being wrong. That's why I don't take any videos down. I have so many videos up on my channel that where my opinion has now changed, right? Because I'm a human being and I'm growing and I'm evolving. And I was laughing. I was like, yeah, it's obvious you've never studied in India because you're too sensitive. You wouldn't hand, you could, if this is how you're reacting to me just explaining myself, then I don't think you could handle India. You would run away crying. Toughen up. Toughen up, Buttercup. Like, this is how we grow and revolve. You know, we refine ourselves by making mistakes and asking questions and being corrected, and that's how we evolve, you know? People are welcome to correct me. They do all the time. It's no big deal. So anyway, I just wanted to talk about that a little bit. Like I'm not gonna coddle people. Like that's not my personality to coddle people. I'm a kind person. I feel like I'm a kind person. I feel like I'm an authentic person. But I'm not gonna coddle you. I'm also a tough love person that comes from my teachings in yoga. I'm not gonna coddle you. That's just not how I am. I was never coddled. So that's just not how I am. And so if you're expecting to be coddled, if you're expecting your delusions to be like love bombed, if you're expecting your feelings to matter over fact, this might not be the channel for you, right? We're all just looking for the truth. We're all just walking each other home. Sometimes that means we fall and skin our knees. That's okay. We get up, we put a band-aid on, and we keep going, and we learn better. We learn not to step that way or walk on that rock, right? We learn how we develop wisdom that way. Wisdom is not created by always being right. Wisdom is created from being wrong. And so with that being said, guys, I know this was a long one. Thank you for sitting. I hope it wasn't too disjointed. Usually I have notes and I mean, I have notes, but usually I have everything like laid out how I want to answer it. But I did want to kind of strike while the iron was hot and go ahead and address this because I know it's a huge thing on YouTube right now. I don't feel like, end of the day, point being, I don't feel like Lauren Matthias is being stalked. Don't think she's being stalked. I personally believe that she's trying to create a narrative to protect some text messages that are about to come out. That's just my thought. I think Dr. John is reacting emotionally because of confirmation bias, because that's his wife. I speculate that there might be some weird dynamics in their relationship. And I'm also curious at the claim that they are controlled opposition. That also has has really struck my curiosity, and so I am going to definitely be continuing to follow this story as it unfolds. And I really hope that I hear from Kresha. I really hope she comes on this channel and tells her story and feels comfortable coming on this channel and freely speaking about her research. Um, if not, that's totally fine though. But regardless, I want you guys, if you want to, again, her channel is down below. Please make sure to follow her. Please, please, please make sure to support her and let her feel that support. I hate when people say they felt invisible. I know that feeling, and she's right. Like, I'm validating her feelings. She absolutely is right because I didn't know she existed. And so she was made to be invisible. And I'm so sorry that that happened. I'm so sorry. My heart broke when I heard her say that because what she says matters. And she is smart. Crush, if you hear this, girl, you're smart and you're observant and you saw something in Lauren that nobody else saw. And so you have to give yourself credit because now you're being proven correct. And so I hope that you feel some vindication. Again, please don't go over to Hidden True Crime and harass them. Please don't do that. Let them be. Um, you know, we'll see how this unfolds. So, but I'd like to hear y'all's opinions in the comment section. You can give me your opinion in the comment section. Please just don't harass them on Hidden True Crime. And yeah, I hope you guys are having a wonderful, wonderful weekend. I hope the kiddos had an incredible Halloween. I hope that you had so much fun dressing up and trick-or-treating. Please make sure to join us tomorrow, Sunday, November 2nd at 2 p.m. 2 p.m. with Todd here on Esoteric Atlanta. Todd the Confused Wanderer. Todd, my partner. He just released a really saucy, saucy article over on his channel. So make sure you check it out, you guys. And I will see you guys all tomorrow, 2 o'clock Eastern time for our live. You can ask your questions in the chat. Todd will answer them. He's also going to tell some stories about his familiar relationship with Laura, all that kind of stuff. We're going to talk about the RH Chenega bloodline, X, Y, and Z. We'll see. We'll see. We might even talk about subjects that I didn't even put in the thumbnail. We'll just see how the conversation goes. So anyway, you guys, thank you so much again, always for your support. Make sure to follow me over on Substack so that you get emails every time a video drops. And I will see you all tomorrow. Bye, everybody.